Welcome to BunniPhish Crafts. I'm your host Heather, known as BunniPhish on Ravelry, Instagram, YouTube, and Patreon. Today is Friday, the 13th of September, 2019. This is episode 48. Grab some sticks and string and come sit with me. How have you guys been? It has been a week here. The weather is not what I want. I thought that when I got home from camping, I came back to autumn. It decided it needed to be summer because this week has been 80 degrees pretty much the entire week. And it was 80 degrees and sunny at the beginning of the week. Luckily today it's only going to be 77 degrees, but cloudy, so it will feel much cooler than it has all week. Cloudy is why we again have this not so great lighting situation. Someday I will get lights. It's my next plan is to get lights for recording. So actually I think my next plan is to get a better camera and then lights. I don't remember. It's written down on Patreon. Anyway, school is going really, really well. Oh my gosh. Yesterday, out of nowhere. So one of the secretaries is out for she went to a destination wedding in Hawaii. So she's gone for a while. And they didn't have a sub for her yesterday. So the principal sat in the morning, but then he asked me if I could man the desk in the afternoon. So I said, well, yes, I will. And then I'm doing the same thing today. And it'll be good. It's fine. So why was it relevant that I was sitting at the desk? Oh, I remember. Okay. So I had my kids come to the office instead of trying to get into the dismissal line at the end of the day because I wasn't in my car, obviously, so I didn't park in the parent pickup line. And I didn't really want to pick them up from the gym if I didn't have to because that's extra walking and like it was a hassle. So I called them down to the office at dismissal. I didn't have them come down early. But I had my phone on silent, so I missed a whole bunch of stuff. I missed some calls, missed some texts because it was on silent when I was in the office, and when I came home, I forgot. So around 5-ish, I checked my phone. Before 5, must have been 4-ish. I checked my phone and I had a message from my daughter's teacher that just said that Mara's amazing and she's always on task and doing her best, which was so nice because my kids aren't bad, so I don't get very many messages, period. Because teachers have to call home about behavior problems and things like that or academic problems, but they don't have to contact you when your kid is amazing. And it was just really, really nice. And then, so then I said thank you for letting me know, and we talked a little, and I asked for her to please send Mara to the office again today because I'll be working in the office again today. And then I sent a message to Gabriel's teacher requesting the same thing for today. And she texted back that she would. And then she said, by the way, so they did testing this week. They did their state, I think it's state. I mean, it's not the official end of the year state, so maybe it's not. I don't know what it's, I think it's the yes. Sorry. I'm pretty sure it's MAP testing, which is Michigan Assessment Program. And they do these tests 3 times a year at the beginning of the year, middle of the year, end of the year. So they both had math testing on Tuesday and reading testing yesterday. And Gabriel's in the 5th grade, and 5th grade had their tests last at the very end of the day. Like they were testing until like 1 minute before dismissal. So she sent me back a note that said that Gabriel did really, really well on his reading assessment. And she just wanted to let me know because I talked to her at Meet the Teacher Night about how Gabriel's kind of a reluctant reader and all of that. So it's just really, really exciting. I don't know what that means. So part of what this assessment does is it decides what reading class the kids will be in, because it's for each grade it's reading below level, on level, and above level is how it's broken down. So Gabriel has always been at the in the below level class, and it's fine if he's still in the below level now. But I'm hoping that he's on level because we worked really, really hard over the summer. If he's not, that's okay. It'll be fine, but I'm excited that he did really well. Even if that is just not just, but even if that's really well for him and it's still lower level. I sound like a horrible mom. Oh my gosh. I'm leaving it in. Sometimes I'm a horrible mom. It happens. But I was just really excited that my kids' teachers had nice things to say about them yesterday. So, on to podcasty stuff. Administrative. The Ornament Swap info is it's posted. There will be a link in this if you want to take part in that ornament swap. And you fill out the questionnaire. The rules are posted in Ravelry, though you don't have to be on Ravelry to participate. If you want more information, go back to last week's episode where I talk about the ornament swap for like 10 minutes or something. The ornament does not have to be holiday. You don't have to want a holiday ornament. Like if you don't celebrate winter holidays and you're not interested in winter things, like maybe you want a little mermaid ornament just to hang on your door or something. That's okay. You can request that. There's space on the form to request things like that. I just really want it to be fun, and I like to receive fun mail, especially once it starts. I love winter, but Happy Mail is especially fun during winter time when I'm doing less outings and going less places. And be, not to say that packages during the summer aren't fun and amazing, they totally are. But there's just something about when you're stuck in the house due to inclement weather. It's just exciting to have the fun comes to you. So I'm really, really looking forward to it. And I'm excited to take part. It's my little dance. I'm very wiggly today, I've noticed. That is because, so it's 8:30 in the morning right now. That's early, right? Guess who's been up since midnight? I blame it on the full moon, which I think is tonight, or was it last night? I don't remember. I think it's tonight. Because whenever the full moon is happening, I don't sleep well. And I didn't even go to bed. I went to bed early, but I only went to bed like 2 hours early last night and then woke up at midnight. And I just haven't been back to sleep. And I knew at about 1 a.m. that I was not going back to sleep. I mean, when I woke up, I just got up and started doing things because that's generally the fastest way to get me to go back to sleep, is to like do something and then start to get tired. Not happening today. It's going to be a long day. I'm probably going to go sleep at like 5 p.m. today when I get home from dropping my daughter off at my mom's for the weekend. And Gabriel and I get home. Maybe I'll be awake enough that I can do our family reading time together. And then I think, so I'm going to plan this out with you right now. I think we're going to do homework right when we get home. And then he can do whatever he wants for the rest of the day. And I'm going to take a nap. He's super responsible. And he puts himself to bed on time and stuff. And the only thing that he wanted to do today was go hang out with his buddy down the street. And he has to be home at 8 p.m. So he knows he has to be home. So I think I'm probably going to nap and just make sure that he knows he has to check in with me when he gets home so that when I wake up again at midnight, I'm not freaking out over where's my kid. Yes, that's my mothering for the day. So I managed to finish a thing even though it's only been a week, which is awesome. By the way, speaking of it's been a week since I last recorded, yay! Hoping to stay on this track. This is what my hair is supposed to look like after a week. This is a week dirty. I mean, not a week. I washed it. Did I wash it Saturday night after I talked to you or Sunday morning? I don't know. But this is what it's supposed to look like, not that hot mess that it was. This is much better. Okay, I'm sure you guys really, really care about my hair. I'm sure. So I finished the slipper. I had all of the knitting done before I talked to you. I just had to put this suede bottom on, which I didn't do until I talked to you on Saturday, and then I didn't do it until I started doing it Monday night, I think, and then I finished it Tuesday morning. Blanket stitching is fine. It's fine, but like putting on the suede bottom, that's not what I want to do. What I want to do is knit the things. I am not such a fan of the finishing, but that's what needs to happen. So that's finished. I'm planning on seeing my best friend in a couple weeks. So when I see her, I will give her her slippers so she can have 2 full pairs of slippers. It'll be very exciting. And then I really kind of want to make a pair of slippers for myself, but will I actually wear them is the question. And if I'm going to make them for myself, I have to order more suede bottoms because I've used the sizes that would fit my feet on her slippers, the ones from the local yarn store. And I don't think she's going to order more. The lady at the yarn store who orders the things because they weren't really in high demand. So I'd have to order bottoms. I think if I were to make them for myself, though, instead of just putting the suede bottom onto the bottom of the slipper so that it's flat, I have super high arches, which I'm sure I've talked about it, and I think you can tell from some of the pictures of finished socks that I've put in, but I have really high arches. So I think what I would do would be secure a insert into or onto the bottom of the slipper, the suede sole. So like, I don't know, maybe Gorilla Glue it to the inside of this before sewing on the slipper. I don't know exactly how I would secure it. I mean, I guess I could stitch it, but then it would go through this suede, and I don't really want that. I think Gorilla Glue would be the best way to go with that. I'm not positive. Only medium important is my sister. We just made a date to go watch a movie sometime within the next week. Well, we didn't make a date. We kind of like discussed the option of having a sister date to go see a movie. Anyway, I don't remember what I was talking about. I think that slipper, and I think that I was finished talking about the slipper. So I'm gonna hope I was, and let's move on to works in progress. So first up, I'm gonna talk about the school socks. You know, the socks that I knit while I'm working at school. And this is not the one that you saw last week. So this is a sock I'm knitting for myself. This yarn is Premier Serenity sock, which comes in 50-gram balls. And I did that design sock that I showed you that I finished last week I bought 100 grams of the yarn, and then I made the design sock, and I used less than 50 grams for the main color of that sock. So I had a 50-gram ball left, which is plenty to make a pair of shorty socks for myself. So that's what I'm doing. And I'm actually basically done with this sock. I am currently, while I'm talking to you, knitting the ribbing. And I'm only doing 5 rounds of ribbing right at the very top of the sock, and I have 3 rounds to go. So I may finish the knitting portion of this sock while I'm talking to you. Depends on how much I use my hands while I'm showing you things. Why don't we do numbers for this one? I'll tell you numbers for this since I told you numbers for the other school sock. So I'm going to let you go ahead and finish counting really quick. So using a US size 1, 2.25 millimeter needle, but it's bamboo, so I knit more tightly on bamboo than I do on metal. So it's kind of, my gauge on this is kind of between what I would get knitting on a 2.0 millimeter and a 2.25 millimeter needle. I am doing 60 stitches for my foot size. I did 50 rounds. So I did my regular wedge toe. I did 50 rounds for the foot, and then I did increases on the gusset until I had 54 sole stitches. And then I did a little heel turn, a very short heel flap, and now I'm doing 5 rounds of ribbing and a bind off. Super, super fast. I started this sock on Saturday or Sunday. Started it over the weekend. I think I did it on Saturday because there is a hashtag on Instagram, Saturday Sockathon, and I didn't participate with that hashtag over the summer, but I really, really enjoy taking part in it during the school year when like Saturday is the day where I do nothing and my children know that I do nothing because mom needs to recoup. So yeah, I'm pretty sure I started the sock then, and then I just had it for when I finished the other school sock. So by the way, for those of you who were keeping score, I went from having 28 whips down to 27 because I finished that sock. These, even though they're two separate, what am I saying? Two separate socks, two separate pairs of socks. I'm counting them as one project. My school knitting is just, it counts as one project on my whip list because I don't have anything in those other 20 billion projects that are appropriate to work on at school. Otherwise, I would just pull something out of my whip pile and work on that. But I don't generally cast on things that are like really simple to make. So this counts as one project. So here is where I was on this sock last week when you saw it on Saturday. I was here, worked my way down the toe. I don't have a preference for toe up or cuff down. It's kind of just whatever I feel like doing at the time. So this one was done cuff down. This one is toe up. And I will be very soon, as soon as I finish the sock, I will be casting on the second of this sock, the second sock for this pair. Yes. And then I will be, and then let me talk about the next project and make it make more sense. So, Nightingale socks are going well. I am really pleased with the progress I made on this week. And I did only work on the color work pattern while I was working on other sock projects so that I could have my third on the needle. So this is how much I've done in the past week. I finished orange, I did all of the yellow, and I started on green. I'm super pleased with how this is working up. The yarn, I brought the yarn. I brought my bag. So this has all of the mini skeins in it. I had 2 sets of the ZK mini skeins, even though I didn't go to this particular ZK. two very generous friends sent me their minis, and that's what I'm using for this. And I have generous amounts of the yarns left over after finishing. So let's tell you what these yarns are. The red is from Cyborg's Craft Room, so you know this has been in my stash for a while. It's called Spoonbridge and Cherry Bomb. The orange is Marigold Jen in the Marigold Duh colorway. The yellow is Another Crafty Girl, It's Electric. And the green is Leading Men Fiber Arts Yarnakuken. So that's pretty exciting. And as you can see, the rainbow goes blue, purple, pink. I may or may not use the pink. I think I probably will. We'll see how tall this sock gets before I get there. And you can see my minis in here. I have the ones that I still have to use. And to give you an idea of how much I'm not using at a time, here's the purple ball, here's the orange ball. So as you can see, almost the same size. I'm not using very much, so I think I will definitely be able to get 3 pairs of shorties out of these leftovers. And I think that I want to do black heels, toes, and cuffs on mine, so even better. Even more likely, I was gonna say, but it's not even a likely thing versus not a likely thing. Anyway, tangent. Definitely can get 3 pairs of socks out of that, but that's not top priority, and I'm not planning on casting that on anytime soon. We'll see. Maybe it'll be, no, I don't really want to take it as school knitting because it's only going to be like 10-ish rounds per color. So that would be I'd have to change yarn at school, which I guess isn't that big of a deal. Whatever. I don't know. I'm just talking. I could do anything. Who knows? So also, isn't this stitch marker Progress Keeper amazing? It's a little felted thing. What would this be called? A bead? A felted bead? It's from Zany Crafts and I love it. I have 2 of them. I have a blue one and this green one, and I love them both. So that is where I was on this. Super proud with this this progress. I did have a moment this morning. So I got up and I started working on this sock because I was like, oh, maybe I can get that first sock of the zipper laxagons off the needles before I record the podcast. And then I decided I didn't really need that to be a thing, and it's fine that I'll finish it after. But that meant that I was working on the Nightingale socks, and I decided to try them on because color work is not very stretchy, and the pattern suggests trying the sock on frequently to see if you need to do increases on the leg to make sure that it will fit on your calf.
This is as far as this sock is going. I am not ripping back these rows.
I could not get the sock over my instep. So I didn't weave them in yet. You can kind of see. So here's one, here's the black. Can you see those? Did I put them over my face? So these 2 ends were part of a strand across, and there was yellow also, because in this pattern, you can see right there, so there's a main color row round that's just the main color across, so you have to float the secondary color behind, and then a secondary row where you float the main color behind. And I did not do those 2 rounds of floats loose enough. I don't have a problem with any of my other rounds with them being too tight or anything. The tension is fine, but I tried to put it on and I felt that above and below that line was stretchy enough to go over my foot. So I decided that instead of ripping back all of this progress that I've made, this is a lot of progress. This is a lot of work. I am not a fast color work knitter. Like this is a more than 2-3 hours worth of work for this on both socks. I mean, also with the other sock attached, but it's a lot of, I was not going to rip it back. So I decided to cut it, and I will weave in those ends later, but I cut it and I got it over my foot and everything is fine. These socks are now working up beautifully and they go over my foot with a little struggle, but that's good. That means that it's not going to be too loose when I'm wearing it. And once it's on my foot, it's snug but not tight. So that was my adventures in knitting. And I had a moment where I was like, am I being delirious right now, wanting to cut that yarn instead of rip it back? I was not delirious. I would have been much more upset if I had had to rip back that many rounds of the color work. Especially because then I would have had to rework those color work charts because I used pen to mark off a couple of those rounds. So those are the Nightingale, which is a pattern by Vintage Pearls, and these are being knit on US size 0 needles. So onto the zipper laxagons, and here is the first one nearly finished. I think I have I definitely have less than 10 rounds to go on this sock, and then it will be finished. So this will be finished today or tomorrow. If I don't finish it today, tomorrow is Saturday again, so I'll be doing Saturday Sockathon, and finishing the zipper laxagons is on this week's goal if I don't do it today. So here is the first sock, and last week I still had to do these two hexagons to finish off this one. I also stuffed that skein down there. I did make the cuff. My sister wanted really short socks, so I did a really short cuff, just enough to finish it off. And that is the first sock, or the second sock. I guess it doesn't really matter. And then in my beautiful sister bag, here is the other sock. I guess this was the sock I was working on last week, since this is where I was with the toe. So I finished the toe, and was I working on hexagons at all? No, I had those finished last week, right? Otherwise they'd be marked. So finished the toe from here to here last week, and I'll show you a comparison of this toe to this toe so you can see how much I don't have left to go. Oh, yeah, probably like 3 rounds. I'm so close to finished. So this sock will be finished today. This one probably tomorrow, probably. Because since I'm working in the office, I'm not doing parent pickup today, and I didn't do it yesterday. Oops. And this is too much to try to work on while I'm in the office. So there's my other Zany Crafts Progress Keeper. Not currently on a project, it's fine. But we're going to count these as basically finished, these socks, because my sister has been waiting for them forever. I started these in 2018 at some point. There's no reason why they should have taken this long. So once I finish them, I will block them and I will give them to her sometime next week. So you won't see anything except a picture of the zipper laxagons next week. And then once I get the zipper laxagons off the needles tomorrow, I will cast on the second toe for this. It's not top priority because I have to get all the way through this second sock, or not all the way, but all the way to the toe on the second sock before I need to start this sock, but I don't know what I was saying. I don't know. I said but as if I had something to say, and I don't. I don't know if I made any progress at all on this design mitt. I didn't put a stitch marker in it, probably didn't make any progress. So I'll just show it to you again. Design mitt. That will be coming shortly. I am thinking that since the zipper laxagon will be finished, and that's my like official car line knitting, that I might make the fingerless mitts official car knitting next week. Maybe, not sure, because I also have this project that I dug out of my whip pile. This is going to be it's either Big Snowy Owl or Giant Snowy Owl by Pearl Soho. It's free on their website, and I just needed something different when I was working on the heel turns for the Nightingale sock. So I'll show you the heel. So this is worked in there's a short row section and then a heel flap that's done back and forth, and knitting with two colors is fine, but purling with two colors was just, it hurt my hand because of the way that I tension the yarn when I'm purling with two colors. So I had to take frequent breaks, and I didn't want to just be working on another pair of socks to take my breaks. I wanted my hand to, I mean, ideally, I would just stop knitting and do something else. That's not realistic. I did stop and crochet a couple times. I did stop and spin a couple times, but really, I was still gonna knit. So I picked up this project out of my whip basket because it is drastically different. Those socks are knit on a 0. This is a size, I want to say 11, US 11. I don't know what that is in millimeters. And it is knit with this yarn, which I think all of the labels have, yeah, all of the labels have price stickers over the name. So it's a universal yarn, world class something, Ferris something. And it's it's non, let's see, it's superwash. Yes, no, it's a number 5 bulky, 70% wool, 30% acrylic. My friend Lorraine gave it to me a long time ago to make something for my son with, and I did start making something for my son, and it was going to be a dragon, but then I stopped after making the body, and it was just like a hexagon, and he uses it as a pillow because he outgrew dragons by the time I got that. So then I had this yarn that I didn't have anything for, and my boyfriend saw my giant snowy owl that I made forever ago, and he was like, "Oh, that's so cool, I want one." And I was like, I mean, I could make you one, but it wouldn't be exactly that, it would be different. So I started this, and I started this a long time ago, and then I got set aside. I think I started it around Christmas last year, like 2018. I don't think it was 2017. But I did this much work on Tuesday because I just needed something different for my hands to do, bigger yarn, bigger needles, and then I didn't work on it after that. I am just into the second repeat of this texture. I think it's 2 repeats high and then you start doing something else. I don't remember. I made this pattern a very, very long time ago, and of course I didn't read through the pattern the entire way before I started working on it because I don't generally do that, even though I hear people on podcasts say you should do that. I generally don't. I generally just go line by line and trust that the pattern knows what it's talking about. So this got a little bit of work. I might stick it in my car. I think I'm going to stick it in my car just in case I need a backup project. Something different for my hands to work on, although I already have another project in my car, but I'll talk about that in a few minutes. Actually, you know what? I'll talk about it now. So that will be living in my car, and also in my car, I started, not in this past week, I started right before we went camping. So what is that, 3 weeks ago, 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, 3.5 weeks ago, something like that. I started just making squares out of acrylic yarn that I have so that I can make car seat covers for my car, because I have bought commercial car seat covers and they get torn up in my car very quickly. I don't know why we're so hard on our car seats, but we are. So specifically, I had a car seat cover on my car seat, and it got like all of the seams got busted. I don't know. It's probably because I spend so much time in my car. So I threw that away a couple weeks ago. Right before we went camping, I cleaned out my car completely, and I was like, you know what? This looks just junky. I'm just gonna throw it away. It's fine. I'll make a car seat cover. So this is going to be for one front seat. I have these mini skeins of worsted weight acrylic. So I've started another one, and these are going to be matching to this point right here. And then it'll just be dark pinks and reds for this. Those will be for the front seats. And then for the kids seating area, I have started with blues and grays in the center. And that's one. Here's the other. And I have scraps of blue. When I run out of gray, so did I say it's 2 strands held together? I don't know if I said that. When I run out of the gray yarn that I have, which I think this is the last skein of gray that I have, I will use brown instead, and this is going to go on my children's seat in the back, because if you have watched any of my recordings where I'm in my car and you have seen their seats, they're disgusting. They're so gross. So gross. So, but that's because my kids, like, there used to be 5 kids living in this house when my sister and I lived together. And so they would like climb over the seat instead of pulling the seat forward, like the mid-line seats, instead of pulling one forward and climbing behind it, they would just step on the seat and climb over. And some things are not worth the hassle of repeating yourself and getting upset over. So I just came to the understanding that it was just going to be disgusting back there. And even though I've like tried to clean them and stuff, they're gross, so I'm making covers. That's what I'm saying there. But those live in my car. I've decided they're going to stay in my car. That way I have a car project in case I run out of the house and then end up needing to work on something and don't have something with me. Because it does happen very infrequently, but every once in a really great while, I will leave my house with no knitting or crochet project. Usually when I'm like, oh, I'm just gonna run up to the store and get this thing. I don't need any knitting to go to the store. But then inevitably, I get stopped by a train, or my sister will text me and be like, oh, what are you doing? And I'll be like, oh, I'm going to the store. And she'll be like, oh, can you go to the pharmacy and pick up my things? So then I'm going to be waiting. So it's going to live in my car. And also that way, when I have a project, that's my focus project, but I need a break, I will have something already there for a break. So I'll have these two things for a break. So spinning. I talked to you last week about this one and I made pretty good progress. I think that I did a total of an hour of spinning on this over several days. I don't know. I don't actually time it. I like to spin while I'm watching vlogs because I don't know why. It's in my head that that's how I want to do it. And I watch a fair number of vlogs, so I don't spin for every single vlog, but um, that's usually how I time a session is by a vlog because they're generally shorter. And so last week this spindle was much less full. I don't have a before picture. I'll take a picture this week so that next week when I show it to you, you'll be able to see the difference. But I don't have a deadline for that, so it'll get finished when it gets finished. I also don't have a deadline for this spinning project. This is what I'll be spinning for my sweater. So this is the little nest of fluff that I have going right now. I do want to get this spindle, I want to finish spinning the little nests that I have. I want to spin them onto the spindle so that I can then clear the spindle so I can go back to spinning the black and green. But yeah, that's going to be my sweater spin yarn. I'm super excited for it. It's going to be so pretty. So pretty. But again, just whenever that gets finished, it gets finished. 5-6 years from now. I'm not in a rush, although I would really, really like that sweater. So yes, that is everything that I worked on in the past week. But I would like to talk about what I've been reading this week because I really enjoyed talking about that last week, as you could tell, I'm sure, if you watched that episode. First up is an audiobook that I am super close to finishing. It has 15 CDs. I am on disc 15, and it is it's a post-apocalyptic thing where people, like everybody in the world, lives in one giant silo, like everybody who's left, because the atmosphere outside is toxic, and so everybody lives in this one place. And it's an adult post-apocalyptic instead of a children's post-apocalyptic, not children's, young adult. It's what I usually read. I got that when we were going to Sault Ste. Marie a couple months ago so that we would have something to listen to on the drive so that when radio stations failed, I wouldn't have to sit there with the scan button running trying to find something. I like to listen to audiobooks when I'm driving long drives. And normally I listen to nonfiction, but my boyfriend doesn't like those books at all. He thinks they're very, very boring, at least the ones that I listen to. So I tried to find an audiobook that I thought he would like, and he did enjoy. Why? He did enjoy what he heard of it, but he didn't he didn't insist that we listen to it together. So he enjoyed what he heard, but he didn't insist. Gabriel really enjoyed the parts he liked, and yeah, it's pretty enjoyable. You find out very rapidly that things are not what they seem, and people are not who they appear to be. It's very interesting to think about what society would become if you had to live in a silo. I really, really like it. I really like the characters. the narrator is very, very good. Then I read Being Jazz, which I think I was reading last week. Yeah, I definitely didn't start and finish this week. Um, I it's about a transgender teen. She was 15 when she finished writing this memoir. Um, it talks about she started transitioning, or she started presenting as female when she was 5, which is pretty young. And she had been vocalizing to her parents that she was transgender, although she didn't use that word because she didn't know that word from the time that she started talking. So she is what am I trying to say? She is like one of the foremost advocates for transgender rights and transgender awareness. And um, yeah, she has a, she and her family have a TV show on TLC about um, their story, basically. I've never watched it. I picked it up because I decided to pick up a bunch of transgender books recently. Well, not recently, a couple months ago, and I've been working through them. Um, yeah, a really good read. Really, the storytelling reads like a YA book, which makes sense. It's a young adult bio. So it's not very heavy. They do talk about serious things, but in a way that's very conversational. I have been reading for a while, a couple weeks, this book by Seanan McGuire, An Artificial Night. This is the third book in a series that is urban fantasy, and this is the main character, October Day, and she is a fairy, like one of the fae. Well, she's a changeling, which means she's half human, half fae, and she's a knight for one of the courts, and she's a detective. Like that's her day job. So I really enjoyed the series. I really enjoyed this author, and this one is really this one's really interesting because it's like it's really scary. This one is way more scary than the first two were. Maybe because the main so it's about children being kidnapped, fae children, human children, and that's just the thing that I personally find so terrifying. So terrifying. So yeah, I'll read a big chunk and then I'll be like, okay, this is too scary, and then not like actually scary, like it's not like a jump scare thing or whatever. It's just a thing that I personally find like upsetting on a visceral level. So I'll read a big chunk and then I'll put it down for like 4 or 5 days. And then I'll read a big chunk and put it down for like 2 days, and probably finish this next week. Maybe by the next time I see you. I don't know though. I could still be reading it. It's hard to tell. The other thing that I picked up is Teeth, which is an anthology of young adult short stories edited by Ellen Datlow and Terry Windling. And I picked it up because I was, someone posted on Instagram that they were reading something by Holly Black, who is an author that I enjoy. And I was like, oh yeah, I like her stuff. I should see what the library has of hers that I haven't read yet. because I haven't read anything of hers since living in Kentucky. And probably a long time ago in Kentucky. I don't think it was like right before we moved. I don't remember exactly. Anyway, I looked up what she had, and I have probably 5 books that have stuff from her up on my shelf that, because again, I binge. I like find a whole bunch of books on a subject or by an author and I grab them all and then I work my way through them. So I wanted something, I wanted a different style of reading than anything that I was reading at the time. And since I was reading a biography and a novel detective thing, I didn't really want another novel, a full length novel to read, but I did want something because I was like having moments where I needed to be away from this. So I picked up Teeth, and so far only one of the stories has been like actually scary. And it could just be because I was reading that particular story as I was falling asleep and it was dark outside. Maybe if I had read it under different circumstances, it wouldn't have been scary. But it was creepy. It's really, really creepy. I didn't didn't like it. I mean, I liked it okay, but I didn't like being scared. But it's different takes on vampire lore. Um, so far, all of them that I've read have been, I mean, it's a young adult book, so they've all been modern and they've all been around young adults who are either around these vampires or vampires who were turned when they were young adults. So I'm really enjoying it. Obviously, can you see my bookmark? So I am using for bookmarks these little magnets that actually come in the planner section. So there's a magnet on both sides and it just stays there, which means that it doesn't fall out of my book when my book is in my bag, or when my daughter picks up my book and moves it and it falls on the floor. And I really, really like having these magnets. I only have 2 and I was using them in my journal, but then I wasn't really utilizing them. I bought them for my journal and had them in my journal, but I wasn't using them in a way that was made them feel necessary for my journal. So then I'm just using them as bookmarks in my books. So I have a really big one. I kind of want a few more that are this size because I tend to read several books at a time, at least one fiction and one nonfiction, but usually about 3 or 4 books on the go at a time, not including whatever audiobook I have in my car. So yeah, that's what I've been reading, and what I've been knitting on. What have you been knitting on? What have you been reading? I think that maybe today, maybe in a couple days. I don't know yet. I think I'm going to take my books. I'm going to turn you. Be ready. So, ba-ba-ba-ba. Here is the bookshelf of library books. Up there, that top shelf is just a mess and I need to clean it off and reorganize it. It's just, right now, it's just stuff, random stuff. So, anyway, these books right here, from here to here, are Mara's. These 2 books, this book are Gabriel's. So I have, I'm going to count now. Ready? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 books that are for me. Oh, this book is also Gabriel's. This is the one he's currently reading for school. Mara's books that she's currently reading, not for school, for our homework time. The ones that she's currently reading, she's only reading one, not ones. She's currently reading one. She's going to my mom's. So that book and another book are in the bag in case she reads a lot, which she won't. She only reads the the homework amount of reading, but whatever, it's fine. I like to pack an extra just in case. I have hope that eventually my kids will be readers like me where they just read voraciously. So yeah, I think that what I'm going to do is something that I've done a few times. Okay, so on Instagram, you have the option of putting a poll in your Insta stories, and people can vote for one thing or another thing. And I like to pit books. Yes, those are correct words. Books head to head against each other, and then I want to read all of the books that I have, but then that way I don't have analysis paralysis trying to figure out what I want to read next because I just have a list of everything that wins first and I read through all of that. And then sometimes I put this like the second books back in for another round of what should I read next. But sometimes I just read after that. But I kind of don't know what I want to read next. So I think I'm going to put that up in Insta stories. You may have already seen it by the time this episode goes up. I am going to let you go so that I can start editing this and also so I can finish this sock. And I will see you in a week. If you have any questions, please leave them below or get in contact with me any other way that is possible. If you like what you have watched, go ahead and like, subscribe if you haven't already, check out my Patreon if you are able to support the podcast monetarily. If you're not, that's also okay. What else? I don't know. My kids are the people with the soundbite who make the end sound really good, and they're at school now. So it's going to be me stumbling through it. I will see you next week. Bye.